The Greater Rochester Area Bowling Proprietors Association presents the Battle of the Sexes. Today's competition is brought to you by Lake Beverage, distributors of Budweiser and Bud Light. In today's match, it'll be the ladies of Spencerport Lanes versus the men of Brockport Bowl. We'll be back to introduce our teams after these commercial messages. To the GRABPA Travel Battle of the Sexes. I'm Tony Destino, and this, of course, we call him Lucky Pat Horner. If you recall, back in January, he predicted Cincinnati and San Francisco in the Super Bowl. Picked San Francisco to win it. Later, he'll give us his Kentucky Derby pick. But, Pat, you got a favorite here in this Battle of the Sexes today?
This is going to be a great match, Tony. Both teams very strong. Both teams won very close matches against their counterparts. Of course, in the men's and ladies' leagues, you have a winner of one half and a winner of another. And both teams had very difficult struggles to get here. So we have two very strong teams. We're going to see some good bowling today.
We've seen them both on the show earlier in the season, and some fine bowling in those efforts.
No doubt about it.
Okay, well, why don't we introduce the teams, and we'll begin with the ladies of Spencerport Lanes. And bowling first for this squad will be Sharon Eisenhauer, and Sharon had an average of 189 this season in the Travel League. Second, Captain Joanne Formicola with a 173 average. Third will be Nancy Bernstien. Nancy's average is 183. Bowling fourth, Ann Lape. Carol carrying an average of 182. And the anchor bowler, Jodi Wallace, with an average of 187. How about a nice hand for the ladies from Spencerport Lanes, the women's champions?
Right, yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, they'll be going against the men from Brockport Bowl, and leading off for the men from Brockport is Jeff Phillips, and he's carrying an average of 205. Second, Terry Berthold, his average 203. With a 186 in bowling third, Steve Passarell. Fourth, Paul Palmer, and Paul's average 208. And the captain today, John Beedham, and John with an average of 204, and those are the men from Brockport Bowl.
Right, Tony, and just a reminder for you at home, we're using the Traveling League averages, and the women receive 100% of the difference in the two averages, so the women will be receiving 92 pins. We're going to add that in right at the very beginning, so it ought to be a good match.
And what's up for stake here from our friends from Lake
$300 for the winner, $100 to the loser.
All right, and I see Gil Morelli on the side, and he'll be joining us later for the presentations. A program reminder, of course, later today, the Kentucky Derby at 4:30 here on 13. You got a pick, Pat?
Easy go or win.
Okay,
easy.
There you go. Well, we're going to get to some easy bowling right after these words for you. Don't go away. Okay, we're ready to go. The handshake between Sharon Eisenhauer, the leadoff bowler for Spencerport Lanes, and Jeff Phillips, who will roll first for Brockport. Sharon bowls 3 times a week. Travel League average 189. Crossover, 5-pin remains. Jeff Phillips, an average of 205. Jeff from Brockport, of course, he's a machinist. Average 205 in the Travel League. Very nice shot there. We come to you from the in-studio lanes at WOKR TV 13. And, Pat, we're on kind of early this morning, a little bit after 11 o'clock.
Well, the great coverage, of course, as Tony mentioned, the Kentucky Derby. And, of course, a lot of bowling going on here in the Rochester area at this time of year. A lot of big tournaments going on. Sharon gets her spare. Here's Terry Berthold. Terry averaging 203. Just a quick reminder, Jeff Phillips will be giving Sharon Eisenhauer 16 pins in their individual match.
And here's the captain of Spencerport, Joanne Formicola. And she crosses over as well and leaves the 5-9.
Now you got to remember that these bowlers are using their Traveling League averages, and of course they're slightly a little bit lower than their normal averages, because when you start traveling to 10 or 12 different bowling centers, you know, that average does come down a little bit, although these averages are very high to begin with.
So, Pat, how about it? Here we are, May 6th, first Saturday in May, and predicting 35 degrees overnight.
Oh, it's
Can you believe it?
Isn't it? Speaking about 35 degrees overnight, you know, Joanne and, of course, her husband Frank are going to be celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary Monday.
All right.
How about that?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Frank and Joanne. There's a great shot right there.
Steve Passarell.
Steve filling in for Jeff Seever, who's unable to attend today.
This is Nancy Bernstien. And tomorrow night, of course, the GRABPA Combined Travel League Banquet. And always a highlight. And this year's speaker, the guest, is Pete McCordick.
That's right. Pete become a very good friend of the bowling community here in the Rochester area over the years. Through many associations that we've had. Pete, a very personal young man from
Super
Houston,
guy.
Texas, and I'm sure he'll be a great speaker.
And who could ever forget a couple seasons ago in Los Angeles when he rolled the first 300 on national TV in a long time.
That's right.
Picked himself up, I think, 100,000 for that effort.
That's right. Well, Nancy Bernstien gets the spare. She was receiving 3 pins in handicap from Steve Passarell.
Now there's a 7-pin leave for Paul. They call him Stomp Palmer. And what a story he was this season. He had 2 300 games in 3 days. Bowled one on March 13th, bowled one on March 15th. He had a 798 series. He has a 218 average. And he'd like to say hello to his grandmother in Holly, who just turned 92 years old back on April 27th.
Young man's got a lot of power also. And this is kind of an interesting story. John Beedham coming up as we watch Carol Ann go after her spare. I still can't believe that I'm going to say this on the air in about the next 10 seconds, but this...
On lane number 2, you have the captain, John Beedham, and Pat, go ahead.
Well, John getting up here had a heart attack Monday. This is Saturday. Can you believe he's bowling?
No, I can't.
He had a heart attack. Well, look at
And he
that.
starts off with a 9-pin hit. John from Hamlin, New York, self-employed roofing contractor. Jodi Wallace with a strike for Spencerport.
Jodi did real well on the ladies tour not too long ago and comes in and throws a big strike. So the ladies, steady as always, get 4 out of 5 marks and 13 with the difference with the handicap added in the first frame.
Cross lane for the 10.
John being pressed into service using someone else's bowling equipment because young man was not able to be here today for Brockport, so ball a little bit different than he's used to. So 11 mark lead for the ladies after 1 frame.
Sharon Eisenhauer crosses over again, but this time carries it, and she has a strike up. Terry Berthold, of course, if you were watching earlier this season when Brockport was on one of our other Saturday telecasts, Terry had a fine effort. And now Joanne Formicola. And she made a slight adjustment, but still came up a little bit high and leaves the 7-pin.
That was interesting watching Joanne throw that ball out. We had 3 trip 4 pins in a row. Figure what the heck, we'll get another one.
And Steve Passarell, who threw his last shot in the channel trying for the spare, makes a nice rally and comes up with a strike.
And Joanne, all right, there you go. That's more like it. Good spare for the girls. You know, some interesting things. As I mentioned, the men bowling out of Brockport Bowl defeated the men from North Park Lanes in the roll-off. North Park winning the first half, Brockport the second. And the ladies defeated the team from Sunset Lanes, who won the ladies' second half. The interesting part about the Sunset Lanes team is that last year, if you remember correctly, the ladies' champions were sponsored by Airport Lanes.
That's right.
And that team, for one reason or another, moved over to and were then sponsored by Sunset. So actually, you had the same 2 teams rolling off for the championship again this year, and this year, Spencerport was able to win it.
Ann Lape. She's run a spare. And she leaves the double wood 3-9.
One thing you notice about the ladies, and this team specifically, Spencerport, these girls pick a lot of spares to keep the ball in play.
9 more for John Beedham. Pat, of course, next week will be the Senior Citizens Travel League show.
That's right, Tony. This is a one of 3 special Saturday shows in a row we're going to have. Today, of course, you're watching the ladies and the men in the Battle of the Sexes. Next week, we have our Senior Citizen show. And the following week, we get a brand new high school show.
And earlier this week, Had the RYABA banquet over at the Diplomat Party House, and fine crowd, almost 600 kids and their families, scholarships handed out. It's just really a great thing to be at.
And here comes Jodi now.
Powerful shot from Sharon Eisenhauer. And now Jodi Wallace on lane number 2. She's on a strike and then had the 7-pin hit. Let's see if she can pick it up. Ooh, slides it by. And she's open. We have Brockport with 8 team marks through the first 2 frames. And the Spencerport Ladies with their handicap in have a grand total of, let's see here, 16 marks. So it's about an 80-pin lead moving into frame 3.
Yeah, we may have that. Jodi Wallace may have missed that spare because we may have inadvertently distracted her. One of the switches in the control room had the big speaker here in the studio on for a moment, and everybody in here could hear what we were saying. Normally they can't. So it'd be like bowling in your bowling center with somebody talking in your ear. It's real tough. It's interesting.
There's Terry Berthold. Terry struggling to find the line here early today. Remember when they were on here the last time, Terry bowled very well. And now Nancy Bernstien. And she has a split to negotiate, the 5-7.
She's a tiger, that Nancy, I'll tell you.
Sure is. 286 high single to her credit, 736 series. Bowls 5 times a week. Nancy, the city tournament doubles with Joanne Formicola, team event, city tournament, Western Central tournament with Judy Brandt, doubles, many accomplishments.
She's won everything. And deservedly so. Fine bowler, great girl too. Great girl, nice girl. Boy, been a friend of mine a long time.
Steve Passarell, a real estate agent by trade.
Ew.
And a big slap for the strike. Brockport's a noisy squad. When they get things rolling, they start high-fiving. You
Jeff Seever isn't here with Jeff Sever's is a pretty big young man too, and you get him and Paul Palmer jumping around, it's like earthquakes. Watch this guy. Watch the
Paul,
power.
here he is.
Watch the power this young man has.
Almost left the 7-10.
17, 18 times down the lane and just power, power, power.
Paul works at Brockport Bowl. Bowls 4 times a week.
Carol Ann gets a nice spare.
We have these profile sheets, obviously, and Paul puts down his hobbies as bowling, fishing, and sleeping. Cross lane. And he misses it on the left-hand side.
Paul averaging 208. He's giving Carol Ann Lape 26 pins, and Carol Ann with an open and him with an open. He's going to have his hands full.
Jodi Wallace, as you mentioned, had some success out on the Women's Pro Tour, had her name up in the top 24 a few times. She also enjoys horseback riding and reading. Jodi was the state singles champion in 1988, and also last year was a member of the team city tournament champions. Has a 300 to her credit, 769 series. Baby split. Textbook conversion.
And John Beedham, our amazing recoverer here, has left 3 consecutive buried strikes. How about that?
He's determined, isn't he?
I'll tell you. Big shot for Jeff Phillips. Jeff has the first 4.
Well, we know these lanes have yielded a 300. Who was it? Sylvester Sampson on Brighton Panorama had a perfect game.
On the TV roll-off show.
Right. The TV roll-off show, that's right. Terry Berthold on the nose. So, Pat, the Derby, the
The
115th run for the Roses later today. Easy goer. Everybody says he's a cinch. What do you think?
16 horses across that track. Wow.
It ought to be something.
Let me tell you what. Well, he won the Wood and the Gotham, and no horse has ever won the Wood, the Gotham, and the Derby.
And if I'm not mistaken, he set almost a world record in the Gotham victory. And they'll be on ABC. Jim McKay, Charles E. Canny, Dave Johnson, Al Michaels, and Lynn Swan be here at 4:30 on TV 13. Post time for the big race around 5:35. Back to bowling. Joanne Formicola, crossover strike. Okay for Joanne. First strike for her. We have a 20-13 mark lead for Spencerport as we continue action here in the fourth frame. Steve Passarell, after missing, throwing the ball in the channel and trying for his spare in the first frame, has strung together the next two. Let's see if he can make it 3 in a row.
Comes in a little bit high, leaves the 3-pin, of course. You got to remember, these lanes are a little different. We've set up many times on this telecast. And you got to get lined up, and they are different. That's what makes that 300 game of Sylvester Sampson so remarkable.
Oh, it sure does. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the first one ever on TV roll-offs, too.
27 years. These lanes have been in the shows have been on the air. First 300 ever.
And, of course, our Fun Time Youth Bowling programs are finished for the 1988-89 season, but they'll return this August.
That's right, and time for all you youth bowlers out there to think about bowling in a spring program. Coming up at all your Greater Rochester area bowling centers, along with you adults, get signed up for some bowling this spring and summer. And, of course, coming up will be the big fall season again, starting in late August, early September.
And I know one of the hot topics at the RYABA banquet this past Monday was, of course, the Empire Games happening at Ides Lanes in Ithaca, New York, August 2 through 6, if I'm not mistaken. And those applications for the Empire State Games, you can consult your Greater Rochester area bowling proprietor. He has all the details you'll need if you're interested in competing there. Okay, Captain John Beedham, 5 days after suffering a heart attack, bowling. And he's gone miss, spare. And we certainly wish him continuing safe recovery. Carol Ann Lape now.
Look at that. Good cover, Carol Ann. So gives Carol Ann 68 1/3 and a 21-pin lead.
Okay, John, good cover. You see Jeff Phillips with the 4 in a row. 19 marks now for Brockport as we go to the 5th frame, and they're closing in. Jodi Wallace sends it wide.
A lot of power. The trick with playing that big swing shot is you got to make sure that you keep that ball inside. As right at the point of release, you see her get the ball just slightly away from her ankle, a little bit further than she wanted, causing her to take the arm swing way outside and consequently having to pull the ball back, and that's why the ball went high. If that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Any streaks you can remember here, Pat, about the GRABPA Travel League Battle of the Sexes? Didn't the women dominate for a few years?
The men won a whole bunch of them, then the women won a bunch. And last time the men won, so at least we got
parity.
Unlike the National and American League in baseball.
Exactly. And, of course, the comments expressed here are not necessarily those of everyone.
Right. Of anyone but you and me. I will tell you one thing. Jeff Phillips has got 5 in a row no matter how you say it.
He's got 5 straight. Jeff Phillips. And a late fall on the 9-pin for Joanne gives her a double.
Slowly but surely, the men are closing the gap slightly here. They got about a half of that handicap back. We were giving the women 92 pins in handicap, and what that is normally these are scratch leagues, but to make it fair, the men's average is higher than the women. We give them 100% of the difference in their travel league average.
And today's show, of course, being directed by Brian Oberacker and the help of the Channel 13 crew, and I asked Brian who his selection was in the Derby, and he said anybody who's 5 to 1.
Anybody who's 5 to 1.
Way to narrow it down, Brian. Oh, we have a lot of fun. Gert Karstensen, of course, coordinating everything here at the in-studio lanes. Tom Sardu, our executive producer.
Mike Contestable's here from Panorama Bowl. PJ Lassessi's here. Ernie Hook, of course. Don't want to forget Ernie.
Couldn't do anything without Ernie. Ann Lape now. And comes in on the nose and leaves the 6-7-10. A little bit of disbelief as she walks back and talks with her teammates. Looks again at the pins, says, I don't believe that. Paul Palmer. So I'm interested to see our buddy Pete McCordick again tomorrow night at the Travel League.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Sure will. He's always got some interesting tales to relate.
Yeah, I can tell you, we've had, speaking about the Travel League, we've had some great guest speakers and some great stories come out of there.
That's right. Dick Butkus.
Dick Butkus, he was one of the best.
Johnny Petraglia.
Somebody kept calling poor
Carter.
Dick up saying it was his first cousin.
Right.
He says, I don't have any cousins. And I'll go to any length to meet some of these people, won't they? Okay, well, as we get to the 5th frame here, Tony, we noticed that the men closing in, and of course with the head-to-head match, and for a point each, 2 points for total, the team winning 4 points or more is the winner. And this match is anybody's game right now, as John Beedham.
We're going to have about a 28-24 lead for Spencerport women if Jodi makes this. And that's exactly what it is.
Well, Tony,
28 marks for the women.
40 pins. The men have cut 50 pins into the ladies' lead. And just a quick reminder, last time we bowled, the ladies were on, the men had cut into their lead, and the women came right back and took it right back away from them right away. So anything could happen here.
Sure can. We're going to take another timeout, and then when we come back, we'll update all of our scores, and we'll do that after these important words for you. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Back, everybody, to the GRABPA Travel League Battle of the Sexes. Tony Destino and Pat Horner along with you. And Pat, I guess there are many interesting stories, but the most interesting is Jeff Phillips has the first 5.
Jeff Phillips looks like he's lined up. We bowled against this team 2 or 3 times during the year, and very powerful team, and the strikes can keep coming. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay, why don't we go individually and update the scores and see just who's doing what?
Okay, again, just a reminder, we gave the ladies 92 pins in difference in average, and so they start off with a 92-pin lead. Pretty good, right? Yes. Well, anyway, the men have cut the lead to 25 pins now.
I love working with this guy. He's the best.
They're 25 frames, and individually, thank you so much.
No problem.
Individually, leadoff bowlers, Jeff Phillips has a 40-pin lead over Sharon Eisenhauer. In the second position, Joanne Formicola has a 42-pin lead over Terry Berthold. Interesting turnaround there, with Nancy Bernstien holding on to a 9-pin lead over Steve Passarell. Ann Lape, a 19-pin lead over Paul Palmer, and Jodi Wallace is leading John Beedham by 13 pins, which makes 25 pins. And remember, we're bowling for a point each and 2 points for total, so the team winning 4 points or more is the champion. And right now, it can go either way.
$300 going to our winners, $100 to the runners-up, presented by Lake Beverages, distributors of Bud and Bud Light, and a great supporter of the GRABPA Travel Leagues all season. Here's Sharon Eisenhauer now in frame 6, and she's off with the baby split. But let's watch Jeff. He's got the first 5. Let's see if he can make it 6 straight.
Uh-oh. And there's the tug. That's
and
the
he's got
thing,
the baby split.
With the new short oil, which means the oil is not applied beyond 24 feet on the lane, one of the problems is the pull. There is no such thing. If you pull the ball, it's gone.
Okay, let's see how they do on the baby. First, Sharon. Oh, she gets it.
Yeah, those pins cost about $10 each. Sharon's a bowling proprietor's friend. Save those pins.
And now let's see if Jeff can make the conversion on the 310. Sets his footwork in a different location. Sends it out, come back. And suddenly he's open after the first 5. All right, here is Joanne Formicola, the captain of the Spencerport Ladies squad, and Joanne is on a double.
Joanne breaks for 8, and we'll see if Terry can get lined up here.
Okay.
I think, I'll make a comment here, and it's easy to sit here and not criticize but critique different bowlers. Terry is using a ball that is very dull in finish. Where you notice all the other balls are shiny. Terry's ball being dull in finish creates more friction than the other balls do, the shinier ones. And what's happening to Terry is, because he's using that dull surface ball, it's hitting the lane and hooking immediately. He doesn't have a chance to get the ball to the right. What he should really do is take out something a little bit shinier and get it out where that ball was, and then let the ball come back.
And there's the baby split again. We've seen it about 4 times today so far. Nancy Bernstien. And we've also seen that double wood 3-9 a lot today, Pat.
Well, the girls are more used to playing around the second arrow. And there's a little bit of oil between the first arrow and the second arrow right now. So what's happening is the girls set it out to their normal area where the ball comes back, and it's hesitating a little bit on them. So they're kind of not as comfortable as they normally would be. See what I mean? That would be a normal strike shot for her in that area. What she'd have to do is just move about 5 boards right with her feet and move her eyes over, and she'd be lined up.
Paul Palmer. There's one of those buried strikes he can throw. Again, Paul with the 300s with 1 day in between. He bowled one on March 13th, didn't bowl one on March 14th, and bowled another one on March 15th. It's got to be a great feeling, huh?
Oh, terrific. Well, when it's like any game, when you got streaks going, you're in. And that's fun. And here comes John Beedham. John obviously wasn't supposed to bowl today, having the heart attack. What he explained to me, what happened is that your heart is surrounded by fluid. And what happened was that the fluid around his heart, he got too much fluid around the heart, and it got a little bit infected, and that's what caused his problems. So he came down today to watch, and one of the bowlers didn't show up. He says, "I'm bowling. I don't care what you say."
All right, here is Jodi Wallace. Looks good. Oh, just dove at the end, and again, the baby split. And Nancy Bernstien, pardon me, the Sharon Eisenhauer. Sharon's 3rd split in a row.
Jodi going after the 310 outside, yep. So a spare for Jodi gives the ladies 3 more marks, which is 31-28. Very, very close match here. All right, here comes Jeff. One small little kink in the first 5, and after the break, left the split.
Oh, and now this time a really tough leave, the 4-6-7.
Huh. It appears the lanes are breaking down a little bit. The light's wearing on the conditioner.
Okay, he picks up 2 more. Joanne Formicola, homemaker, and also does some work, of course, with the Lilac City tournament. Tells us she enjoys ceramics and bingo and golf.
And her son, Frankie, I was going to say her son Frankie and his wife are expecting their first child, and it's going to be a baby boy. She had one of those sound
ultrasound, I
Oh,
think.
thank you, Tony. And be about 5 weeks from now.
Maybe
The family's very excited.
Maybe it's Dolby sound. Yeah, that's great.
Because Joanne's other two grandchildren, Joanne and Lindsay, are both young ladies.
Joanne now 7 and Lindsay 4.
Right.
All right, Carol Ann Lape.
There you go. Carol Ann moving into
Double peanut.
play around third arrow the ball, hooking a little bit. Too much at the end of the shot, leaving the 4-6.
So we can see a significant change here in frame 7. The ladies having their problems, and Brockport trying to capitalize. They got the double from Terry Berthold, and now a spare from Steve Passarell. So they have 3 marks already in the books compared to only 1 for Spencerport, and it's doubtful they're going to get one here. The men with an opportunity to add 6 marks to their total, and part of it if Paul Palmer can double.
Boom. Boy, I'll tell you what, he trusted that ball as much as you could possibly trust one. He sent it way out.
Jodi Wallace trying to rebound from another split.
That was
solid
a good
10.
ball.
Sure was.
See how our hand stayed underneath the shot, getting both fingers through and up. That's all you can ask for. All right, it's good cover. So a big spare for Paul.
So with a conversion here from Jodi Wallace, the ladies will have 34 marks.
Tell you,
And the men can pull within 10 pins if John Beedham can register a mark here in the 7th frame. Oh,
Whoops.
Jodi threw it right away.
This match is virtually even now, Tony.
33 marks through 7 frames for the ladies from Spencerport. And we have the washout for John Beedham.
Interesting, all 3 shots after the break by Jeff Phillips coming through high. Looks like he pulled all 3 of them, too. Oh, look at that.
33 marks for Spencerport's ladies team, 32 marks for Brockport's men's squad as the battle of the sexes moves into frame number 8.
Hey, as Tony mentioned, frame number 8, and we're going to tell you that Jeff Phillips is ahead of his individual match. Terry Berthold down 10 pins. Steve Passarell in the lead. Paul Palmer down 1 pin. And John Beedham down 15. Very, very close. This is going to go down to the last bowler. I'll tell you that right now. There's that ball hooking early again.
And Sharon is open. How about that, Pat? Sharon 4 splits in a row.
That
happens.
I'll tell you. You bowl a game, and that happens, you come right back to the next game and shoot 230 or 240. You wonder how it happens. Oh, that was really a poor break for Joanne. The ball made a nice positive move for her in the end. And the head pin coming off the sideboard took out the 5, but the 2 didn't do his job, taking out the 7.
Nice shot from Steve Passarell.
All right, Steve.
Like the way our crowd keeps growing, Pat?
Yes, it does.
Must be getting closer to noon, huh? Strike from Paul Palmer.
So men are starting to put a little hurt to the ladies here. The ladies are going to have to answer back. And here's a girl that certainly can do it. Boom! That's it.
No problem for Nancy. That's a double for her now.
She shrugs her shoulders like it's nothing to it, but she She's a good player.
So it's going to come down here to the last couple of frames like these matches generally do. The battle of the sexes. John Beedham with a strike. 5 marks for the Brockport men gives them 37. Strike from Ann Lape.
So just when we think the ladies are going to lay over and play dead, they start coming back.
So we are in a flat-footed tie right now. Jodi Wallace with a mark can help the ladies maintain their narrow advantage. Men are finished with the 8th frame and have 37 marks. The ladies, with Jodi still the ball, have 37 at this moment.
She breaks for 8. So with a spare here, they'll maintain about a 10-pin lead with 2 frames to go.
$300 to the winners, $100 to the runners-up, and Pat, it all comes from our friends at Lake Beverages, and what a great group of people over there supporting bowling in our community. Only this year, but many years in the past.
Jim Bond, great staff over there. Gil Morelli's here today. I don't want to forget Gil. We'll bring him in, hand out some checks later.
Okay, so Jodi Wallace conversion gives the Spencerport ladies that narrow 10-pin advantage now. And here's Sharon Eisenhauer on her 5th straight split, but she makes that one.
I just sit here and shake my head. When that happens to you, you just really just try to make some adjustments. Uh-oh.
Jeff Phillips finds the range.
Jeff says, I like that.
First strike in the second half for Jeff.
Jeff and his wife and his little baby sitting right in the middle of the audience today, cheering on Dad.
Baby looks more like he's rooting on the apple juice.
That was mixed fruits.
Mixed fruits.
Mixed fruits.
Terry Berthold. You know, Terry's a drummer in a country and western band. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He has a twin brother, John. And his wife, Sue's a teacher in the Brockport Middle School. They have a son, TJ, and daughters, Jamie and Kelly. Whoa, nothing wrong with that shot. 3 straight for Nancy Bernstien.
As I said, when you're looking for someone to pick up the slack, Nancy certainly can do it. And here's another lady who can do it, Ann Lape. So, leadoff bowlers, Jeff Phillips ahead by 40 pins. Right where we were at the halfway point. Phillips, not one of his better shots, breaks for 7. Second place bowlers, Joanne Formicola holding a 10-pin lead over Terry Berthold. Third bowlers, Nancy Bernstien now 139 through 7 on a triple. Steve Passarell needs the spare here. We'll see what happens as Ann gets hers. The spare here, Nancy's ahead by 12. Make it 23. Ann with 136 now. Make it 24.
Jodi Wallace on lane 1. Boy, that ball broke about a foot in the last 10 feet towards the target.
Throw about a foot the last 3 inches.
Paul Palmer with a double.
Boom, that's a big double for him. All right, 145, it gives Paul a 9-pin lead. As we go to the anchor bowlers, to Jodi Wallace, and this is a big shot for John Beedham. 34. Oh.
So that miss makes it 43 marks for the Spencerport ladies after 9 frames. And now John Beedham looking for a double.
John breaks for 9. If John gets a spare here, it'll be a 14-pin lead for the men going into the
last frame.
And the interesting part is it's so close anybody can win it.
How about that strike from Jeff Phillips in his first shot in the 10th? he slides
That's
it
interesting.
just
Now
hooked away.
We've got a virtually even match going to the 10th.
So let's see who bowls the best under the pressure of the 10th frame here.
This is it.
All right. Sharon does not have a split that time. I'm sure she's pleased with that after having the misfortune of collecting 5 straight. No splits that time. And now here's Jeff Phillips. 3-6-10. Oh, and Jeff Phillips misses. So
that was after
that's
the
going to
strike,
give
though.
him
221.
221.
Great game for Jeff Phillips.
Very nice, Jeff. And Sharon breaks up those splits and has a spare, so she's going to receive the free shot here in the 10th. Terry Berthold, he's on a spare. He has a possibility of 191 if he can get 3 in a row here.
There you go. Look at that ball.
First.
That's that Vector 2, Tony. It's got like a, I don't know, an airplane propeller or something in the middle of it. Looks like a couple of wings if you were cut it apart. You get that ball rolling on the right spot, I'll tell you what, nothing stands in its way.
And if you're real late, you can probably fly it to Cincinnati.
Yes, you could.
Right?
174 for Sharon. So Jeff Phillips wins his individual match and gives his team the first point.
A little quicker. So 191 if Terry can get one more.
191, it forced Joanne Formicola now to at least mark.
And Joanne has a double guard.
Win. Look at this, he comes right back. Hey,
Joanne can go to 211.
This is fun. Joanne looks over here. Oh, this is, what a great match.
Oh, rode the rail. 188 for Terry Berthold. How about this, Joanne, at the end?
Just when I thought the men had him, the girls come back with a series of strikes to get right back in the lead again.
Joanne can go to 211.
This is right back and forth. I can't believe it.
Steve Passarell.
Well, I guess if you're going to leave something when you need a mark, the 5-pin's a nice thing to leave.
All right, 211 if Joanne can get her final one here in the 10th. 210.
Nice game, Joanne.
So 384, the total so far for the Spencerport Ladies. 409, the total so far for the men. Of course, where do we have the handicap added in there, Pat?
That's all added in.
Okay.
Well, this is it.
So at this moment,
it's
right.
even match. We've all
just about even. And now Nancy Bernstien, now we saw Joanne finish with a great string. Nancy's on 3 in a row. See if she can end with 6 straight. Just dove high at the last moment. She's still got the 6-10. Hang on. Oh, and she slides that one left of the 6-10. Paul Palmer on lane 1.
He hit it off the 3-pin. So 185 for Steve Passarell. Nancy Bernstien, 191. Nancy wins her point.
Ann Lape. Middle of the deck, 5-pin.
A big spare.
$184 possible for Paul Palmer. 175, the best Ann Lape can do. She gets this 5 and all of them in their last shot.
So this will be the six pins for Paul, gives him 180. But that's enough to win.
794, the men's total through 4 bowlers.
No, that's
173.
That's 774, Tony, just so you know.
7-1?
774, that is.
774.
Because 80 and 90 is still 70, right? Right.
And 748 for the ladies.
We have a 13-pin difference right here. He breaks for 8.
7-10.
She needs double. This is good. This is it. This is unbelievable. I love it. It's going right down to the last frame. She breaks for 8.
3-6. All right, the best Jodi Wallace can do, Pat, obviously 170. That would give, if she
18,
would give him what, 918. 146 for John.
2 pins. How about that? If Jodi goes spare strike, the men win by 2. 2 pins. All right, Jodi, good finish.
So the women could fall 2 pins short if Jodi gets a strike here.
Yeah, right. 2.
All right, so that's it. The men are going to win it, and we're running a little bit short on time. So what we will do is we'll break away for our final commercial break.
Watch this ball hit the pins.
After this ball hits the pins,
Why
all right?
not? We'll
And
watch
then we'll
it.
come back and present our checks after
A
this.
2-pin victory for the men, 4 points to 3. What a great
3-pin
match.
victory for the men. Okay, don't go away. We'll be right back to present our checks and talk with our bowlers after this. Back on the GRA-BPA Travel League Battle of the Sexes show, and Pat, I guess what you can say is that when you've got 10 bowlers bowling a game and 3 pins separate the winners from the runners-up, there's so many places you can go back and pick it out where it might have happened, huh?
Well, I don't think it really comes back to where it might happen. I think it was a good competitive match, and I
Great
think
match.
everybody was trying. And the lanes proved to be a little tough today. And some of the spares were at a premium. And a couple splits, you know, and we were kind of kidding Sharon between breaks. But, you know, when you get some splits going, it's tough to get off the nose sometimes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and there was a lot of things going on. And, of course, this is Gil Morelli from Lake Beverage. And, Gil, a good match today.
Very good match. 3 pins separated the winners and the losers. But personally, I think the game was lost in the first frame. But, you know, these things do happen. But,
Gil is the same guy who's picking Secretariat to win the Kentucky Derby today. Okay, Gil. Joanne, a nice game by you. And just when your team needed a lift, you got one from Nancy and Jodi and everybody, Caroline. And
We did. They did good. I'm proud of them.
yep. And of course, winning the Ladies Traveling League is an honor in itself. It's a very competitive league and a very, very good league.
Definitely. We had a lot of competition this year.
That's right. And of
Well,
course,
every year, really.
That's right. It doesn't change. And of course, we want to congratulate the girls from Sunset who won the second half. Is that correct? You won the first, and you won the
Right.
second. And then, John, of course, your team come back to beat North Park. They were tough all year, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. The whole men's traveling team is, but we had a different team the second half than we did the first half, and I'm proud of every guy on my team, and they're real competitors. They don't know what it's like to lose. That's not in their vocabulary.
Well, I'll tell you what, 3-pin match today. Very, very lucky. We would have almost found out, didn't we? But a great match, and you know, of course, Jeff Phillips, holding his baby there, had those first 5. Very good competitive match. Gil, you got some money for the...
yes, for the runners-up today, Joanne from Ladies of Spencerport, 3 pins. I guess that'll make you stay up tonight and think about it, huh? Good bowling, though. And for the winners today, for the men of Brockport, John, good bowling today. Jeff, 5-bagger.
Terrific.
All right, well, Pat, it's been a great season. Of course, the Travel League banquets are coming up tomorrow night, and the guest of honor is Pete McCordick, pro bowler, had a 300 on TV a couple years ago, and a good friend of the bowling community. We can't wait to see him, can we?
That's right. And next Saturday, don't forget, we've got our senior citizen show. Two of the champions of our senior traveling leagues will be here. And the following week, we're going to have our high school show. So a lot of bowling programming coming up for you on Saturday afternoons right here on WOKR.
All right, well, we want to congratulate all the bowlers in the Travel League and remind you, of course, later on, 4:30 here on 13, the 115th Run for the Roses as ABC takes you to Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby. We're going to run for Gil Morelli, our ladies and men's champions, and, of course, Pat Horner. Tony Destino saying thank you, so long, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. The Greater Rochester Area Bowling Proprietors Association has presented the Battle of the Sexes. Today's competition was brought to you by Lake Beverages, distributors of Budweiser and Bud Light.